Hello, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to another Superhuman webinar. Thank you all for joining us. We'll get into intros and all that good stuff shortly. But yeah, really excited to have you all here. And we'll kick things off. But before we do, let's hang out a little bit. Let's break the ice. Let's do some classic icebreakers. Now, here's what we got. We were chatting about this backstage, kind of what we wanted to talk about, and we were thinking like what the dream of AI. So if you could do one thing, if you had one thing you could like fully outsource to an AI agent, an AI tool, what is the one thing you would do? So for me, I'm for sure outsourcing like life logistics. That's what I want to do. I want to like see a billboard or like see a poster for like a comedy show and like automatically I'm like, hey, AI, I need you to book tickets to this thing. And it just figures it out. It figures out the prices, it figures out the tickets, it plans the whole thing, and it's like it adds to my calendar. Like that is what I want. That's the dream. Sebastian, what do you got? What are you
I
doing with AI? What's your dream?
I'm similar, man. I would love to have an AI that just says, "Hey, you're free this Saturday. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go on a date with your fiance. This is the restaurant. It's all booked for you. Here's what you're gonna order. Here's what she's gonna order, and here's what you're gonna say to start the dinner. And then here's all the steps that you need to take to have an amazing date." If I could have a day planner, that would be amazing. So many times I go on
I
Saturday, like, "What are we gonna do today?" It's like, "What do you want to eat?" And she's like, "Oh, what do you want to eat?" And then we have to waste time. And I'm like, and then we just order pizza. It would just be great to have like, you know,
I mean, this to me is the same as Rob's plan, an AI brief before every single meeting. Like this is not, it's not dissimilar. Like I think this is the same AI. Mike wants a cricket coach because Mike, I mean, I'm an AI optimist. Don't get me wrong, but it's only going to do so much here. There's only you can only coach so much. I think
you
you want to
can
be
do it,
really
Mike.
careful.
You can do it, man. Don't give up.
I'm fully in on brain chipping. I think that's I love the confidence. All right, these are so much fun. Email outreach to prospect to set up meetings. Love it, Dylan. We might be able to help you out with that. That might be doable today. So I love the practicality. Again, for everyone who's joined, super excited to have you all here. Thank you all for joining. We have a super fun conversation planned. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into everything else. First and foremost, this will be recorded and you will be receiving the recording afterwards. So if you have to drop, if you want to send it to somebody else, someone can make it, no big deal. You will get the recording. I absolutely promise you. Secondly, I'm Spencer Grover. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Superhuman. Pronouns are he, him. Super excited to be here with all of you. And now I'm gonna turn it over to Sebastian. Sebastian, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you for being here, and tell us a little bit about Rilla, this incredible company that you founded.
Yeah, so I'm Sebastian, I'm the founder and CEO of Rilla. Rilla, we are the leading speech analytics software for outside sales and service. So you think of plumbers, HVAC technicians, electricians, people who sell windows, siding, flooring, doors, people who sell medical devices, pharmaceutical devices. There's 12 million outside salespeople in America. They talk to people face to face in their homes, in their stores, and in their offices, and they record their conversations with the Rilla mobile app. And then we use AI to transcribe, analyze, and give them feedback to help them improve their sales and to help their coaches do what we call virtual ride-alongs that are 100 times faster, better, more productive than physical ride-alongs. The vision for Rilla is that we want to bring the power of AI from the call center to the offline world where most people still work today. 85% of commerce in America happens offline. And our vision is to make offline commerce as searchable and indexable as Google once did for the web. And about myself, I am a former stand-up comic. I used to do stand-up comedy, got addicted to this art of trialing and error and creating things out of nothing. And then that's how it got me into startups. Started my first startup out of college, and then it was my first shitty startup. And then I started Real after that. And here is and Rilla is here today. So yeah.
Pretty good. One trial and error is really important, especially as you're founding a company. So to only have one bad startup and then the second one is just nailing it is that's pretty good. Yeah,
Well,
that's
well, I
that's
wasn't
fifty
nailing it from
percent.
the beginning.
That's a 50% win rate, Sebastian. I'd take that. I'd take that
Yeah.
all day long for my sales cycles. No,
I
that's
count Rilla the first 3 years of Rilla were shitty too. So I count that as
all right.
30%,
Fair enough. Fair
30%.
enough. There's a learning curve. There's a learning, and we're gonna get into all that.
Yeah.
I'd love to, which is actually a really entirely unplanned but very excellent segue. You know, right now in this like insane era of productivity and efficiency, founders are getting asked to deliver more and more and more. I
Yeah.
don't know how your board meetings are going, but I'm assuming AI is coming up a lot. So there's all, there's tons of this conversation is very much focused on like how do you get more out of the resources you have. I'd love to hear a little bit how, you've really at Rilla, you're trying to maximize that efficiency. In particular, like how have you gone from what you were doing 3 years, the first 3 years of Rilla, maybe not the most efficient engine, to kind of
Yeah.
where you are now?
Yeah, so I'll tell a little bit about what we've been able to do and then kind of how we got here. So you talk about board meetings. So number one, it's like we kind of the founders at Rilla still control the company. It's only the founders on the board. So our board meetings
They're
happen like
small. They're small.
yeah. We're like we have a lot, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. We've been very
Yeah.
lucky that Rilla has grown dramatically fast. So we're pushing to $40 million of ARR, growing like above 170% year over year. We started selling January 2022, went from 0 to 1.4 million, 1.4 million to 10, and then 10 to 30 last year, getting up to 40 now. And so we're growing really fast. We're one of these like fast growing AI startups. And one of the things that we got really lucky with is that we were able to do that with a team of very few people. So, which is kind of becoming a trend now with the new AI startups. You see Cursor, they have like 300 million ARR with like 60 people. We have about
Yeah.
60 people on the team, so we're not as efficient as Cursor, which is like, but
You're coming for
but
them.
we
You're coming for them.
we have to hire salespeople and all this stuff because we do B2B. But we're pretty efficient. Our ARR per employee is about 560, $570,000 per employee. And so that's like, I'd say like that's pretty efficient. It's like up there in the list of like top 10. And there's like, OpenAI and Anthropic and Cursor and all those guys. And they're like, we're right there in the top 10 of efficiency. That I would say like when it comes to thinking about productivity, we don't do it because the board demands it, or we don't do it because not even to make money. For us, it starts with culture at Rilla. So
Yeah.
maximize your productive time is one of our cultural principles, and it's been so since day one. And
Hmm.
and so since the beginning at Rilla, we've always been concerned with how do we squeeze the juice out of every single second of the day, every single feature that we deploy in the product, every single moment that we have with a customer on a sales demo or a marketing channel. That's always been a thing from day one. And you asked how
Yeah.
we got here. One of the critical things, I'll give you an example in the revenue team. I sold probably the first, not probably, I sold over the first $2 million of Rilla myself. So before hiring any salesperson. So we now have a revenue team that's over, it's close to like 30 people. And I used to do every single job in that revenue team. So
Yeah.
I used to do the marketing, I used to do the sales, the outbound, the demos, the customer success. I used to do every single job. And because I used to do every single job myself, at every point, I would always be kind of like overwhelmed with work and stuff like that. So I would always try to, build the bot and automate a lot of things that I could do myself so that I could be a one-man kind of revenue army and do all the different jobs myself. And so to give you an example, when Rilla, focus is an important part of the question. So when a lot of founders are thinking like, how do we grow? How do we become effective? The biggest weapon is focus. Like, can you focus on one channel, one product, one market at the beginning so you can nail that? And then things become very easy. The channel that we focused on at Rilla at first was conferences. And just to give you an example of how we became very effective over time, it's all about how do you focus on what channel and take out steps, delete steps and make the process simpler. So we would go to a conference. The standard in SaaS is you go to a conference, you talk to a prospect, you try to, tell them about your product. You get a business card, you get them to put their data in a form, and then you follow up with them. You have some sort of outbound sequence where you follow up with them 27 times to book an intro call where you're going to qualify the customer. And then after that 30-minute intro call, you're going to book a demo the next week, and then you're going to do an hour demo, and then you're going to follow up a few times to close the deal.
Hmm.
That's why it takes about 3 months or 6 months on average to close a SaaS
Yeah. It's
deal.
the 90 it's the 90-day sales cycle. It's the generic 90-day sales cycle that every forecast has.
So for us at Rilla, I was the one-man sales army, and I was like, I don't have
Sure.
time to be following up with people myself. So I said, what can we do to cut down the outbound sequence from 27 steps to 1? So I figured out I could do a pitch at the conference. It's a 2-minute pitch where I explain what Rilla is very quickly. I booked them on the demo directly because I qualified them in that pitch. I tell them to book a time in my calendar. So I eliminated all the follow-up, all the intro call, and I made it into one step where they booked the demo. Then I focused a lot, and we're going to talk about this later, how we use AI now to scale the team and make it super efficient. The demo itself became super effective. We do discovery in 20 minutes in Rilla, so no more than 20 minutes. Then we do a demo in 5 to 10 minutes, and we show the product for only like 2 to 3 minutes in that demo. And then we proceed to do Q&A and closing in the last 30 minutes of the demo. And so we were able to, our average deal size is about $50,000, but our average sales cycle is 10 days. So it's a little bit over a week. So that created a lot of speed because we took what used to be like a 30-step sequence and we turned it into 2 steps. It's like you go to the conference, you book the demo, and then you do the demo and you close the customer. 50% of them close on the first call. So how have we scaled? I did it myself, so I saw how it worked. So when we started hiring our first sales hire, how did we scale myself? So one of the AI tools that I use every day is Rilla. So Rilla is usually used by our customers, but we decided to use Rilla internally because we wanted to dog food our own product. Every single day that I hired my first sales hire, they would do demos from like 8 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. at night. He was just doing demos and follow-ups and demos and follow-ups. So he was doing exactly what I was doing. And then at night, I would literally review every single one of his calls, using AI. We have a little AI chatbot, Rick, that tells me like what objections came up, what did he ask in discovery. And I was able to review every single call in about 3 minutes. And now we got it down to like 3 minutes. So I'm like, even to this day, we have a team of, like I said, almost 30 revenue people. We review every single sales call that our salespeople have, like every single, me, myself. And that's one of the things of an AI, like one of the products that have gotten a lot of traction is not necessarily products that have completely replaced human beings out of the workflow, but products that make human beings 100 times more effective at what they do. And so today I spend about 1 hour or 2 hours a day reviewing every single sales call for my team, and my sales director does the same to make sure that that demo is as high quality, as fast as it should be, so that the customer can get the value very quickly and we can close those deals very quickly, so that we can keep a really tight sales process, very high average ticket, and very, very quick sales cycle, which allows our salespeople. To give you an idea, our average salesperson at Rilla, they're making about $300,000 of ARR per month bringing to Rilla, and our top performers are making above $5 million, $6 million of ARR per year. So, and that only happens because of this super efficient, highly effective process that we've been able to like just cut steps into 1 or 2.
So as you're kind of going through that optimization process, you're thinking about AI, you're thinking about how you can kind of get more juice out of your team. What are some other AI tools that you're using in your tech stack?
So I mean, our engineers use Cursor, like I mentioned. They're trying. What's interesting is like they've tried like things like Devin and stuff like that, but then Cursor has seemed like Devin is still kind of experimental. Devin's like an AI engineer that does coding for you, like outside, again, one of these AI products that replaces a human being. But Cursor has really taken a hold, and Cursor has made us really effective. In sales, we use Superhuman, and Rilla is mostly the AI tech stack that we use. I myself have been, I think. Yeah, I don't know how many referrals I've given to Superhuman because I started using Superhuman myself in the early days. And what was super critical, I'll talk about how we use Superhuman, how we talk in the sales team, and how we use Rilla. Superhuman was super critical for me because, again, I was a one-man sales army, and my calendar was literally back-to-back sales calls. And that's how we like it at Rilla. We want to have back-to-back sales calls because we literally quantified how much is a salesperson's hour of their calendar worth. At Rilla, that hour of their time is worth about $5,000 because of the opportunity for closing, right? And so if we're not putting a demo in that calendar, that means we're losing $5,000 of that salesperson's time. So that's how we think about it. And so at Rilla, I started myself with Superhuman, just a one-man sales army, like single player Superhuman. And what was super critical for me, even before you guys started adding the AI features, it was I had a demo that was an hour, and I had to close the customer in that hour, or prepare my follow-up with that customer, right? Like literally as I'm talking to you, you're the prospect. I literally need to be preparing the follow-up for that customer because I have another call that I need to get to because everything's back to back, right? Because we're trying to squeeze the juice. The only way that I was able to do that is using the Superhuman snippets. So, and like I would have my templates of like, here's the standard follow-up that we have with Superhuman. Like, hey, we just had a demo. Here's what we talked about. And I would just like hit the little, whatever you call this little thing, the dot and the comma, and then like whatever I don't know how to call that. The little dot and the comma. And then that produces, and then I just write the name of the snippet and hit send and change a couple of things. I was able to do that in less than 10 seconds, just the snippet. And I was able to do that as I was saying bye-bye to the customer on the call. So by the time they left the call, I already followed up with them and sent them everything they need, sent them the context, sent them everything, and we need a follow call. Then I was able to hop on the next call with the customer. We scale that to our sales team. So you will literally see our sales team. They follow up with customers as they're on the, they don't wait and then follow up at night. No, they literally follow up immediately. And one of the things that we've done with Superhuman is scaled it such that if there is, because now it's becoming a little bit more complex. We have different types of customers, different types of markets. We have different types of salespeople. These conversations are not the same all the time. So you can't just use one snippet. What we'll do is we'll do the AI drafts and be like, hey, draft me a message that's, you know, for this customer that says this and this and that. Or we actually have Rilla on the call who's listening to the recording. We have our AI, Rick, we call him Rick. You say, hey, Rick, can you draft me a follow-up email that I can just copy paste? It's Superhuman based on the content of this conversation. So again, we can scale that really crucial 10-second follow-up for nuanced situations. So we either use the Superhuman AI to draft emails, or we use the Rick AI from Rilla that literally comes up with an email that's based on the personalized content of the conversation. We copy paste that into Superhuman. And so and then the other thing that we do is, if we notice that like every single salesperson I realize mandated to use Superhuman, by the way, like, you know, even salespeople like Matt Polito, who's our sales director, he was like an old school guy. He came to Rilla with like an old Microsoft, you know, computer. It looked like Windows 95. And I'm like, what the hell are you using? And I try to get him into Superhuman keyword shortcut. He's like, no, man, I don't like it. Now he uses Superhuman. Everybody uses Superhuman. One of the things that our salespeople know to do proactively is, anytime they see themselves having to send use the AI draft twice, like, hey, I need to create this type of email. Let's say you're talking with a customer who wants to see some references from very specific customers from an area. Let's say we have a customer in Arizona. They want us to follow up with some references from Arizona. Our salesperson, if they get 2 customers asking for that same thing for references in Arizona, they know that they need to create a snippet. And then that snippet is shared across a team. So then our salespeople are trained, before you even start thinking of drafting your AI, just click the little dot with the comma to see if there's a snippet that's been created for this particular situation. So we can have that 10-second follow-up so people can be doing calls back to back to back. So that's just like one of the things.
So as you're kind of, you mentioned briefly that you're starting to, you know, the revenue world, it sounds like, is getting a little bit more complicated as you expand into new markets, new kinds of customers. You know, as you scale that complexity, how are you thinking about maintaining that culture of speed?
So like, yeah, so AI is super critical. So when I'm reviewing calls, so somebody asked like how I use Rilla on phone calls. So it works like, you know, typical note takers. Like we do calls on Zoom. So the Rilla bot joins, and then you're able to, like, our AI friend Rick, it's able to unpack the calls very well. So what I do on Rilla, for instance, is I have little paths that I set up, kind of like, you know, like similar to Superhuman. You have inboxes where you can set up your little inboxes. In Rilla, you can set up like playlists for calls, right? And so I have a playlist that's for new markets, and so I have my playlist for new markets, and I go like, okay, let me start listening to these calls that are for new markets to see what interesting things I can come up with. And then when I go to review a call, I review a call in 3 minutes, because I always have a framework for how I'm going to review the call. So if I go to a call with like a new rep, I go like, hey, I go to Rick and I tell, Rick, like, hey, Rick, can you take me to where they talked about discovery? What could the rep have done to improve on the discovery? And Rick tells me, and then I know like, oh, this rep needs work here, and I give them some feedback, and I move to the next call. If I'm looking at a call for a new market, I'm like, hey, Rick, can you take me to the part of the conversation where the customer was describing their business model? Because that's what I'm interested in that call. I want to hear the business model. Yeah. So I have like little, we at Rilla say that sales is a sport. And because you're treating sales like a sport, you need coaches, you need sales athletes, and you need a lot of coaching and training. For us, like in sports, you have playbooks for different types of situations that arise. So in my mind as a coach, I have like different types of situations, different types of playbooks that I use to review different calls so that I could do it in about 3 minutes, which is a median. And so you just, like, the way we scale it is we just keep opening up these paths or these playlists for different types of situations so we can create playbooks for everything.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you're really, it's about like, you've got some kind of targeted sales motion happening, and then you're layering on that AI. to try and make that happen. Either make the decision essentially: is this a good idea or a bad idea to move into this market, or is this the right customer or
Yeah,
wrong customer from a fit
yeah,
perspective?
because I'm listening to like different types of business models, how they use the product, and I go exactly I go exactly to that part of the conversation to listen to those interesting parts.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned something else earlier as well, which I want to kind of pry into a bit more. You mentioned that like there's this sort of two versions of AI that's happening right now.
Yeah.
One version is AI is being used to completely remove remove a job from a person's jobs to be done,
Yes.
essentially. The other
Yes.
world is augmenting that work. And so you can do, 5, 10, 30, 50 times as much productivity in the same time, or as much of that work in the
Yes.
same time. What's your like? Do you see the future of AI really in this like 50x productivity, or do you see it as jobs are just going to fall away from the way we currently work and live, or do you see just some combination of both?
I think based on where I see the technology now, especially how we're using it, how I see the other AI companies that are growing a lot right now.
Yeah.
I I I I haven't seen still use cases of an AI completely automating anything. And so it's like the old like the meme of like, hey, you're not going to be replaced by AI, you're going to be replaced by somebody using AI. And there
Hmm.
and those are early experiments, like you have Devin AI and software engineering, but even the AI
Yeah.
SDRs, like we don't use AI SDRs at Rilla. We tried them out, and it's kind of, it kind of sucked to be completely honest. It
Yeah.
wasn't like even the SDR, which you think it's like, oh, this is like a quick call, quick like 2-minute phone call. You just have to get basic data. The AI
Like
is not even,
very structured environment, right? Like we
yeah,
should be,
and
yeah.
but the AI SDRs haven't really gotten like, so then so we just haven't seen that yet. And so
Hmm.
um um and maybe that's like, and you could say like, oh, maybe the technology is going to continue to get better, and it's going
Hmm.
to, it's going to just continue to get better in the future and extrapolate from there. And it's like, oh, maybe some jobs are going to go away. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but I just haven't seen that yet. And so the future,
Hmm.
the immediate future right now in the present today is certainly that which I'm describing, which is AI tools that make your teams 100 times more productive, whether it's engineering or sales, or, and that is true. That's not like a hypothesis. That's not an extrapolation. Like at Rilla, the average salesperson at Rilla is making 2 to 3 times more ARR per month than the
Hmm.
typical salesperson usually. And that's because we've scaled these processes that are powered by AI, coaching on every call, using AI powered email to write emails really fast and follow up so that the individual
Hmm.
salesperson can be more productive. We see that with our own SDRs. The same thing, we coach our AEs on every call. We have the SDR manager who used to be an SDR themselves. They coach on every call. They tell them exactly what to say in these little short, little phone calls. And then the SDR is also enabled with a lot of automation technology that can help them follow up very quickly over email
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so, and then the SDR is like, our average SDR at Rilla is bringing us about, $100 to $150,000 of net new ARR per month, which is kind of insane. And that's not,
Hmm.
that's usually you see like SDRs on the top end bringing you like $60,000 of ARR. Ours are bringing us like $100 to $150,000 per ARR
Hmm.
per month. So highly effective, which, so yeah, I see the future being, the immediate future at least, is
Yeah.
tools that help the human beings become 100 times better at what they do.
Yeah. And I think that's like that when I look at like the AI tech landscape, that's where I see it as well. That all these where I see like tons of potential in like the next, call it year and a half, 2 years, because infinity's a long time. When I see like that potential, the next like in the short term is very much like how can we enable and empower people to to just work vastly more productively and vastly more efficiently, which I think is really really interesting. Um, so I want you to we're gonna move out of the world of AI a little bit and into the world of workflows and productivity strategies. If you were, let's say, in this magic world, you're advising an early stage startup, they're stretched super, super thin. Unlike you, they don't have control. They have a boardroom who they have to go and talk to every week. So they got, they're feeling the burn a little bit. What would you recommend? What would you recommend they do to just stretch their resources as far as they can and really just maximize their productivity? What would be your recommendations?
um, yeah. Okay. So, number one, I would say it is easier than ever to keep control of your company. So don't put yourself in a situation where, where the board or investors have control
Fair
of your
enough.
company.
Fair enough.
So
Investment is VC strategy aside.
yeah, and that's important too, because now more than ever, it is easier for founders to create companies where you can build the house that you want, and you don't have to, like before, I think in the last decade or so, it was this idea that founders used to work for VCs, and VCs were like kind of like your bosses, and like the board was your bosses. Now that's not, like, the best companies are not, if you look at Lovable, if you're highly effective and you can produce a lot of, and you become self-sustaining, cash flow positive, and you're also growing really fast, which is the new trend now of the top performing companies, then you kind of get to pick and choose, your partners. You get to pick and choose your terms. Like that's why Mark Zuckerberg owns so much of Facebook, because he was growing so fast profitably. People think like these startups in history, they've gone unprofitable. No. Facebook and Airbnb, every time they raised money, they were profitable. They were cash positive. That's why they got really great terms. Now it is easier than ever to do that. And that's why there's more startups now. Like you talk about Cursor, you talk about Midjourney. Midjourney is like a tiny little team of people. They haven't raised that much VC money. They rejected, and they're making like a few $100 million with ARR. ARR for employees, insane. So it is easier than ever to do that. So first of all, don't put yourself in that situation where and I would say, like, and you don't have to put yourself in that situation, because you don't need that much capital to get started anymore. Like you can start a really great product. And like Rilla, we started it with $10,000. Right, sorry, like a few tens of thousands of dollars, that I took over from my previous company, and it wasn't that much money, and so we had like 4 founders living in an apartment trying to figure things out. It took us a while, right? So we had to have a lot of patience, a lot of time, and so now let's say that you're in the grind, you're trying to find your startup. How do you stretch your resources? How do you become super effective? So I would say that's, to me, the right question is, how do you win today? Because that's what you have to do to win. To win, you have to become insanely effective, insanely good at just doing a lot with very little. That's the new market, by the way. Money is not cheap anymore. So if you're not doing that, it's going to be hard to even raise money and get started. Like you cannot burn money.
Yeah.
The market has changed. Interest rates are high. It's not like it was in the 2010s. Like that's the way to win. You have to do it. So how do you do it? The number one thing, there's a lot of things you could do. You could talk about tooling, you could talk about AI, you could talk about all these different things. I really go back, it starts with culture. And the main thing that Rilla has done to grow insanely fast, while also keeping our burn super low, being cash flow positive, high ARR per employee, is that we have practiced intense, unrelenting focus. Okay, so we saying no is your superpower. So like, like one of the things that we did is that when we started out, we could have taken our solution, which is really a general solution for many different outside salespeople. Like there's 12 billion outside salespeople in America. We started with just one tiny market that had like maybe like a few thousand salespeople. We started with market of home remodeling, people who sell windows and baths. That's the only people who could buy Rilla. So what that meant is that for that year, where it was only the 4 founders, me, the one-man sales army, it was very simple for me to create a sales pitch, a marketing message, and a product that would cater to those particular types of people and be able to gain market dominance there. From the product side, there's so many things that Rilla could build at any moment. We could build like more automations, we could build more analytics, and we could build more. But what we realized that the true power in Rilla was in that how fast can you review a conversation with Rilla? And so we really leaned into that particular use case. And so more than ever, I was just reading the NVIDIA Way by Jensen Huang, and one of the things that they did at the beginning that was wrong is that they tried to build a graphics card that could do everything. And Jensen Huang says that was a mistake. It flopped. The product flopped. Customers never go to the store to buy a Swiss Army knife. A Swiss Army knife is something that you get for your birthday or Christmas. You never go out of your way to buy it. Customers are looking for very specific solutions that can do really great things really, really well. And that's why I press on focus. If you can focus on one thing and do it better than anybody else, whether that's in marketing or sales or product, your chances of winning are much higher. And if you do focus and you become amazing at that one thing, you just see like this insane momentum, this snowball that everything just starts becoming easier and easier and easier. And so focus is the one thing I would say to everybody who's getting started today.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it ties in so nicely with something you mentioned. It is, yes, capital is more expensive right now, but you need vastly less of it. in order to start an organization. So there's enormous saturation in the market right now, which is really, really interesting. But I think it's super like with that saturation means that consumers are confused, and it's really hard to know if a product is going to help you or not help you. Like it's a very, very busy market on both sides. And so the more focus you can provide and the more clarity you can provide, the better off you're going to be. I love
Yes.
that.
And one thing about that, I always recommend this to founders. I would highly recommend reading the book Crossing the Chasm, because I would say if you're in your early stages and you're trying to find product market fit, what a lot of founders get wrong is that they actually focus on they believe the product market fit is a one-sided equation, and they actually focus on the wrong side of the equation. They say like, oh, let me figure out how to make the best product. But product market fit is a two-sided equation where you actually have to find the best market for this concept, this idea that you have first. And if you find the right market, then the market pulls it. It's like this old quote that Andreessen Horowitz, I think, said. It's like, if you have a great team with a great product in a shitty market, the market wins and it pulls the great team and the great product down. If you have a shitty team with a shitty product, with a great market, the great market pulls the shitty team and the shitty product upwards and onwards because the market is just so good. And so the first 3 years of Rilla, talking about focus, we literally focused on just finding that first market vertical that was going to work for this concept of recording in-person conversations. Like even people today, like in the chat, are saying like, oh, does Rilla work for government? Does Rilla work for law enforcement? Does Rilla work for all these different types? Yes, it could, but focus. Yes, you have to say no. It could work for all those things, but Amazon didn't start as the everything store. Amazon started as a bookstore. Facebook didn't start as the social media that with 4 billion people that are using their products. Facebook started as a dating site for Harvard students, essentially. You needed a harvard.edu. So finding that very niche market that you can actually, like you talk about, the market is so noisy. And so if you could do one thing amazingly well for just a tiny group of people, and they absolutely love what you have, my God, if you could do that, you could actually, that's when you get that, overnight success where you like go like that, like from 1 to 10 or 1 to, like all these companies are growing really fast. They just did something really, like Perplexity. Perplexity is just doing search. They're just trying to do search better. That's all they're doing. It's not. Yeah. Just focusing on one market, one particular use case, one product. That's and Crossing the Chasm talks about how to focus on markets and stuff like that. So highly recommend to any founders that are getting started now.
Yeah, I recommend Crossing the Chasm to everyone. I think everyone should read it. It's so good. So if you haven't read it, highly recommend it. Yeah, super engaging book. We're gonna shift gears a little bit now into audience Q&A. And this honestly, this wasn't a seeded question. It just works out really well. Somebody asked, do you ever worry that AI is introducing more noise or complexity instead of clarity? And how do you avoid that?
Yeah, this is actually a great question. This is a great question. So thank you for asking that question. So yes, and that's why when people ask me about productivity, I'm like, I never go first to the tooling. I go to culture, because if you have a noisy culture that doesn't know how to focus, and you just start bringing in a bunch of, if technology is only going to make whatever your culture is internally or your processes are internally, it's going to make them faster. So if your processes are disorganized and bad, and your culture is like, all a mess internally, and you start bringing technology is going to make those shitty processes better at being shitty. You know what I mean? It's going to make them faster. Whereas if you have a really, remember, how did I start my productivity journey? I realized I was myself doing everything manually, doing all the things myself, so that when I could automate, I had already done it manually myself, so that I could do, you know what I mean? Doing the things that don't scale first, so that you can bring the automations in the right places. A good example of this, like for instance, with Superhuman AI, I don't like, if you can draft an email that's really what you like, and this happens really with software engineers, but for instance, with AI, you have to be really good with your judgment about when to use it and when not to use it. One of the things that I found myself, a problem that I found, is that I wanted to use like the AI for everything, and I would be like, oh, draft an AI email. But then I realized, oh my God, for simple emails that I could just be like, oh, talk to you later, drafting the AI took me a little bit longer than just replying myself and just going at the keyword shortcuts and hitting enter and then being like, hey, talk to you later, or let's book it, or just hitting the beat button on the Superhuman shortcut to create the event. You know what I mean? Instead of having an AI response, because then I would have to edit it, and I would have to, like, sometimes it literally takes you more time to edit the AI responses than it takes you to actually draft a reply. So So then if you start just using AI for everything, you're actually going to slow down a little bit. Now, AI is super helpful when there's like a super nuanced message from an enterprise customer who's asking us about, like all these different security requirements and stuff like that. And we've already sent them a snippet that with all the documentation, and they ask a very particular question. I can say, hey, AI, can you draft a message that's, that addresses the customer's concerns, that's super casual, and that tries to convince them to get on a call so we can explore this question further, right? That's easier than me thinking about,
Yeah.
so it's, you have to use your judgment, because not every you. And if you're going to automate something, I always recommend, like what we've done is we always do it manually first so that we can understand it with our phones, and then we automate, and then we automate a little bit, and then we keep the, it's like the old story of Airbnb. They started literally taking pictures themselves of the hosts' houses, so that they could take these really awesome photos of their houses, so that people would book more stays at their listings. And then over time, they automated a little bit and a little bit of it. And it wasn't until like 5 years later when they had a fully automated solution that the host could take the pictures. They would like clean it up and stuff like that. It was like a long time before they automated it. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And like it's so tempting, I think, as small and resource constrained startups, it's tempting to turn to product as a solution, which is usually the most expensive solution. Engineering is very expensive. And so if you can solve something either manually before you need, like really nail it and then scale it out, like if you can solve it in a different way with process or workflows or automations or tooling, that's going to be a much faster and easier solution than trying to productize it right away and get it really good and then begin to productize it. I'm curious about the same question. So thinking about that complexity and noise, how are you thinking about that from the product side? When you're thinking about Rilla and you're thinking about the market and the demand for AI, like, we've talked a lot about the go-to-market side and how and the importance of workflows and processes, but how are you thinking about noise and complexity around AI when you're building the actual product?
Great question. So we actually, I basically took this directly from Rahul. He gave a talk about, the product market fit survey. We use that at Rilla because you get so much feedback from so many different customers. So many people want so many different things. If you actually use, and somebody maybe can put it on the chat, the somebody looks up Superhuman product market fit survey framework. That thing saved our lives. So we basically discard a lot of the feedback very politely from customers, and we only focus on that particular segment of customers that we think that we can turn into raving fans of Rilla, and we build the things that they want, that allow us to also keep in line with our vision. So we don't build everything; we just build the things that are going to push our vision forward. And the way we kind of sleep through the noise is we don't really ask customers about what we want them to build. We ask them about the problems that they have, and then we try to observe the problems that the customers have from firsthand. Like one of the things that we do at Rilla is last year we did 150 in-person ride-alongs, our team. So we were doing like in-person ride-alongs with our customers, seeing them operating in the day-to-day. Because when customers tell you about the problems that they have, that's only the tip of the iceberg. It's like you're talking. Like a product feedback session is kind of like therapy, where somebody's going to tell you what problem they have, but you have to dig super, super deep to really find the root cause of the problem. And it's going to be something that the customer themselves didn't even understand before they started talking to you. So that's your job as a product builder. So one of the ways that we sleep through a noise is we like actually, well, first we use our own products. That's super critical because we become our own users. And then we start to spend as much physical time in person with our customers, observing, not asking them, observing how they use the products, observing their day-to-day, so we can identify problems that they didn't even know that they had. And then we don't really think, oh, how can we build this as an AI thing? We don't care about that. Like that's like, we just think, what's the best way to solve the problem? And if AI is the tool to do it, then amazing. But we don't think about like some of the best features in Rilla and in Superhuman are not even like the AI features. Like one of the features that I love the most about Superhuman is the keyword shortcuts, because it makes you so much faster at going through your email, and like the little the inbox zero image. That's so beautiful. It's fun to do with AI. So can AI solve this problem for the customer or not? That's how we think about it.
And when you say in-person ride-alongs, you mentioned right at the top of the call, one of your key markets is, like HVAC specialists. Are you going with them on site, like
yes,
like in the van riding? That's awesome. I love that focus on really like deeply understanding your customer and understanding who your customer is and who it should be. That's so powerful.
And we do that with managers and salespeople.
Yeah, of course. So one thing Carla asked is, can you walk us through a specific workflow in Superhuman that's really helped your team move faster?
Yeah, so the keyboard shortcuts are like
Yeah.
people like that. I want to be super clear about this. Is like this is, and this is one of those things that like every single product that we use at Rilla, we try to make it such that the product itself is enhancing a culture of speed. And even
Hmm.
like before all the AI features of Superhuman, just the keyword shortcuts alone was enough for me to tell my entire sales team, you need to use Superhuman. Why? Because it's going to force you to work on your keyword shortcuts, which is going to make you 2 to 3 times faster at going through your email, which is going to make you two
Hmm.
to three times faster at actually following up with customers, which is going to make you 2 to 3 times faster at actually closing deals and generating a
Yeah.
lot of this pipeline. So keyword shortcuts was number one. Number two was the snippets. Hey, don't do double work. Anytime you see that there's a pattern of two, if you see that you're sending the same type of email twice and you're writing it from scratch, make a snippet of it. How do you call this thing? The thing that's the
Semicolon, semicolon,
semicolon.
semicolon.
I'm not American. It's my second language. Okay, so it's
Fair
that
enough.
semicolon. The semicolon. So I was like, if you see that you're writing the same type of email twice, semicolon, turn the draft or turn the email into a snippet and make that snippet shared. Those two things have helped massively. And then, of course, the AI email generator, where you could say, like, hey, there's
Yeah.
a nuanced conversation here. I don't know what to do. I'm going to send an AI email, which you can just activate with a keyword shortcut on Superhuman. You could just be like, ask AI, can you draft me an email with this criteria? We reserve that for the more complicated emails, maybe the longer emails, especially for our enterprise salespeople. We're constantly
Yeah.
doing that as well. And so, yeah, and then, yeah, and that's with Superhuman in particular. But so if you, I don't even know how many templates we have, but we have like a ton, like we have a ton of snippets in Superhuman. Maybe I can tell people. I don't even know if I can count here, but you guys can maybe tell the people in the link how many. I'm literally scrolling right now and it hasn't hit the end, but I have like we have a ton of
It's a
shared
lot.
snippets.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and I think someone just commented that this idea of like do not repeat yourself. I think that that workflow of if you're sending something lots of times, make sure you make it a snippet, and then secondly, for those more nuanced ones, don't write them from scratch. Like you can use AI to very roughly prompt. I talk to my AI a lot personally, so I use something called Whisperflow to talk out loud to my AI and say this is what I want, and it's a really rubbish brief, and then it gives them lots and lots of context, and then the AI will turn it into a comprehensive email. That's how I do it. But those two workflows together because it feels very cyclical. So it's you're starting with snippets for easy stuff. You're using AI to generate more
Yes.
complex stuff. The more you generate that complex stuff, those then become snippets and so on and so forth. And so you're just
Yes.
constantly optimizing and refining down your process.
And that's where the skill set is kind of like the judgment of when do you use which,
Hmm.
right? Like you're constantly like you're it's an active kind of work in your mind of like, what do I do right now? What's the best kind of, if you think about it like a video game, which I do, it's like, what attack should I use to beat this enemy right now? So is it like a super powered AI email that I can't, that's going to take me long to write, or is it going to be like a simple snippet that I could just create right now?
Hmm. I love that. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. We'll see if we can squeeze in two more. We'll see. Sarah asked if you were starting Rilla today like, from scratch, what would you do differently when you're setting up your team's workflow stack?
Oh, yeah, I would do so many things differently. Jesus. Uh, uh-huh.
One or two things. One or two things.
I would have hired an ops person earlier. We
Yeah.
waited a little bit too long to hire an ops person because like somebody asked, like, are we using Superhuman as the CRM? And basically we do have a CRM outside of Superhuman, but we kind of like want that to be like mostly automated. And we want
Hmm.
to keep the salespeople on Superhuman talking to customers, not organizing stuff in a pipeline in a CRM. So
Yeah.
when we hired an ops person, a lot of the CRM workflows were automated from like literally you have a call and it almost like moves it automatically. And once it moves it to a particular stage, it sends the contract. It's like a lot of that has been automated. And
Hmm.
we had that because we had an amazing ops person that was able to do that. And so I would have done that. And then I would have prevented my team to use any products that don't have keyboard shortcuts. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
straight up. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I absolutely love it. All right, we're gonna do because we do have a little bit of time left. We're gonna do a couple of rapid fire ones. So, one is what CRM do you use? This come up a
HubSpot.
couple of times. You use
HubSpot.
HubSpot? Okay. Secondly, this one I can take. Superhuman works with HubSpot and Salesforce super effectively. Uh, we have integrations with both of those, as well as integrations with a handful of others, but Salesforce and HubSpot are for sure the best. Last question, I think then, there's I want AI, and I'm going to have to read this out verbatim to make sure I get this right. I want AI that has the ability to automatically share information within an organization to improve internal communication. Sebastian, do you have any recommendations for a tool for like this?
I guess Slack AI has something like this, which is like
Okay.
you can ask Slack AI things. But Superhuman has another thing in email where you can ask the AI to search for a particular thing and then share it. But Slack AI has a similar that when you're internal communications, I would say Slack AI is what I'm thinking about.
Okay. Slack AI. I would, selfishly, I would recommend Superhuman. We have auto summarize threads is going to make threads really easy to understand. And then of course, you can write with AI to write all your email drafts. And you could even say, hey, you can reference this email. Look at this one over here. This is the format I want. Draft a weekly update. Pablo, that's how I would do it. But look, you do you. All right. Team, we are at time. Thank you all so much for hanging on to the end. Thank you for all of your amazing questions. And Sebastian, of course, thank you for spending the time with us. This was so much fun. This is the best part of my job. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Thank you guys, and good luck. Kick ass, everybody. Go build
Cheers,
some cool
everyone.
stuff.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.